Hello, and welcome to Big Sound Small Town. I'm your host, Sandy Carlton. The small towns and communities of Cleveland County, North Carolina have long been a hotbed of music in all its many forms. Several Cleveland County musicians have found commercial success and critical acclaim in the music industry. Yeah, everybody knows that Earl Scruggs, Don Gibson, Patty Loveless, and Alicia Bridges are from Cleveland County. Donald Byrd too. So this is not a podcast about them. This is a podcast about the musicians who are still here that keep music alive here. This is the stories, and you need to know them and know the people who are making the music. This is not your normal podcast. That was the Derek McCoy Trio doing a blistering version of Herbie Hancock's Chameleon. Today on Big Sound Small Town, we're in Got Books Bookstore on South Lafayette Street in Shelby, North Carolina. Guitar virtuoso Derek McCoy. Welcome to the show, Derek.
Hey, Sandy. Thanks for having me.
All right. Looks like things are going good here. I know it's a long drive down here. Where did you have to come here from?
From Hendersonville.
Ah, okay. Yeah, that is. I appreciate you coming down here and do this. Little background. I've seen Derek play in everything from a country setting to an extreme jazz setting, and he plays it all fabulously. So we're going to find out how he got to that point. So where did it start for you?
Well, I'm 40 years old, and I started playing when I was 11 years old. And my dad had some records, a little handful of records that I had. I had Sgt. Pepper's.
Yes, good record.
I had Blow by Blow by Jeff Beck.
Yeah, that's an excellent record.
Hotel California.
Yeah.
And I had Eliminator by ZZ Top.
Yeah.
And I think Jimi Hendrix Smash Hits. And initially, I just thought it was cool to put records on a record player and it makes sound, and I just thought that was interesting, you know.
Well, did you learn with the drop needle?
No, I did not. No.
Okay.
That came later. Really, I never learned how to play any of that music when I was a kid.
Oh, that's funny.
My dad had a Hondo acoustic I found in his closet.
Yeah.
And I started beating on that and never got anywhere with it or anything. And ways after that, my mom bought me a guitar from Sears. It was a Gibson Explorer copy made by Sin Sonics.
Oh, yeah. I remember those.
It had a built-in speaker, which was kind of cool. And I never got very far with that either. I just kind of made racket on it, and eventually took all the strings off of it, and I would listen to heavy metal music and stand in front of the mirror and pretend like I was playing.
Yes, that's good.
And after that, though, she bought me a PV T15, and that was my first real guitar. And I started learning some tunes. Like I learned, I guess Nirvana and Pearl Jam, people like that were getting kind of big.
Right.
and I learned a lot of their stuff. I learned how to read tablature out of magazines.
Wait. You got here just by learning to read tablature?
Yeah. Well, I mean, for a minute, for a while. And like I did tablature, and I learned some of that kind of stuff. Like Nirvana was a big deal to me, and Soundgarden I liked a lot. And but I also liked Cream a lot, and I liked Hendrix and everything. I did a talent show in 8th grade, and we did Sunshine of Your Love.
Yeah.
And we did some Pearl Jam song that I don't remember.
Yeah. Did that hook you then to be in a band or a musician?
Yeah. And I think that's a really important thing for me, has been playing with other people from as soon as I could find anybody else that could do it with me, I started doing that. And I think that's a big...
That is a biggie. I mean, you can play by yourself, but playing with others that's really what music's about.
That's what makes it happen.
It really does.
Yeah. And and then I got into punk rock after that, and kind of completely got off the whole guitar hero kind of thing for years, really. Like I've gotten this metal band named Serenity with a fella named Eric Sparks, who that's not his name anymore, but I forgot. But some guys around here, and we played Jeremiah's once when that was around. And we opened up for Anti-Scene, which is like a pretty big punk band.
I know who they are.
And we eventually that band kind of split, but 3 of us hung out. Me and a guy named Bobby Hoyle and a guy named Butch Roberts. We had a trio, and I started singing a little bit back. I used to sing back then, and playing punk rock and stuff. And then got into improvisational music a little bit. And when Government Mule was coming around, we were digging on them a lot. And Derek Trucks and Jimmy Herring, guys like that.
Fabulous players.
And we started mixing in a lot of jamming. I don't know how good we were at it, but we did a lot of it, and all this metal and punk and jam band kind of stuff kind of started getting mixed up. And that's all the way, I was 18 by then, and we did a lot of gigs and a lot of rehearsing, in between getting in trouble, all the time.
I do understand about that. That's part of the band life.
Yeah. There's a significant amount of that.
Someone who tells me they've played in bands a lot and they've never eaten at a Waffle House.
Yeah.
Didn't play in much of a band.
Right.
And that's the best thing you can say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess later on I worked at the Cleveland Country Club for 3 years, and I was going to be a chef and almost kind of had a different career path, but I just figured that wasn't for me. I wasn't able to go much further musically around here, I guess, with the guys I knew anyway at the time. And so I decided to go to music school because I heard Jimmy Herring taught at Atlanta Institute of Music, and I wanted to study with him.
I could understand that.
It wound up that he wasn't teaching there anymore, but I went to Atlanta and auditioned to go to the Atlanta Institute of Music and got in there, which is like a 1-year school, or it used to be. It's changed quite a bit since then, but it's like a 1-year, like accreditation type school, and that's when I started like getting.
Is that when you broadened that horizon?
Yeah, it's 10 years into me playing at this point, and I started getting into jazz a lot. I bought Love Supreme, John Coltrane record, and Kind of Blue.
Maybe the finest jazz album ever.
Yeah, it's amazing, yeah. And because I got into all that stuff, everything that I've gotten into is from, used to, before the internet, you just got magazines and you'd read interviews with people, and I'd read that, James Hetfield from Metallica, they were into Black Sabbath, so I got real into Black Sabbath. And then I think that's actually what more brought about the improvisation thing is Black Sabbath's first record, where they did a lot of jamming and stuff.
Yeah, they did.
But then I'd read interviews with Tony Iommi and the Black Sabbath guys to find out who they were into, and so on and so forth. Or Eric Clapton, you read about how he liked Robert Johnson, and that's the way that I broadened everything out with music, because all these guys love somebody, and you just figure it out, But that's where I started like learning how to actually practice and stuff. Instead of just sort of playing, I started learning how to practice.
It's obvious in your playing. I mean, someplace you watershed hard because there's a multitude of scales runs through your stuff everywhere. I mean,
yeah, well, that's where I started doing it. Like I learned, I really didn't know what I was doing before then. I played more with sort of just shapes on a guitar or whatever. And when I got there, the school was 5-6 hours a day, 5 days a week. So it was like a really intense. And you also had to clock in and practice so many hours a day. You had to like have, basically it's like a 10-hour a day thing almost with practice and going to school. And
did they decide what you would practice? I mean, lay it out?
Not really. I mean, if you wanted to have good grades and everything, you had to practice all the material, which a lot of it was just conceptual, like theory and scales class. And I mean, there was, various things. And but I did develop a pretty hard work ethic musically anyway at that time. And I started practicing about 7-8 hours a day. And I did that for 3 years, where the year after I graduated, I started being a substitute teacher there, but I also worked in the library there, which was just getting VHS tapes for people of instructional material.
Right, yeah. So I guess you had access to all that.
Yeah. And also, I just sat there and practiced, and they just let me. And I had a little cassette recorder, and I would record myself comping chords. Yeah. And I would play over the chords, and I had a whole big system of how I started learning how to improvise and everything. And then I learned how to transcribe and started learning solos by all my heroes. And I'd write them down in notation, like I learned how to read music and stuff, which if there's any musicians listening, learn how to read music early if you ever want to.
I totally agree with that.
Yeah, because it's no fun. No, when you can already kind of play. It sucks having to learn how to read music and you're reading like Mary Had a Little Lamb when you can actually play gigs.
When you can play Stevie Ray Vaughan's Mary Had a Little Lamb.
Right. Yeah, but you have to learn the real Mary Had a Little Lamb.
Yeah, exactly. Were you playing during this time in a band?
Yeah. Well, for a couple of years I didn't. All I did was woodshed and practice and jam with people. But my playing was really mechanical and stuff. Like I didn't really have a lot of soul at that time, just because I was coming from I was just trying to get all this new stuff under my fingers. Right. So I was really obsessed with speed and like how to play fast and alternate picking and like picking every note really fast. I'm not any good at that, picking stuff necessarily like I was then. But and then, I got some gig, like playing an open mic for a jazz thing, and I was horrible at it. I didn't know how to play jazz, at all. But thankfully, this guy named Steve Wright used to come in there, and he was a really good musician and just wiped the floor with me. Just made me feel like I was nothing, Mm-hmm. And that inspired me, though, to practice hard, And I've always tried to play with musicians that were better than me.
That's the way.
After that, I started doing some little jazz gigs, and then the first big thing I did for me, like musically anyway, is playing in a funk band. Like I played in a 12-piece funk band with a big 5-piece horn section and stuff, and we played on the road all the time. And Maceo Parker, saxophone player, his roommate from college was the guy that owned the band.
That would be James Brown, Maceo Parker.
Yeah. When he yells, Maceo.
Exactly.
Yeah. And we got to meet him. He took us out to breakfast one time. That was pretty cool. And that's where I learned how to play funk music and R&B and stuff. The drummer would really give you a bad vibe, if you weren't killing it, And you had to really kind of earn. Things were different, I think, back then as far as people weren't so sensitive of your feelings and stuff. They didn't really care. They just wanted you to play well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah. And if you didn't, they would tell you.
Yes,
and they didn't care if it hurt your feelings.
Yes, I've been in those bands too. Yes.
And so that was a big deal, and I learned how to play, play parts in that band, how to play less, and just play your little thing and do it really well. And And I started playing in jazz trios when I was in Atlanta. I got to play with all the great cats around Atlanta, of which there are a lot.
I'm sure there is, yeah.
There's a lot of amazing musicians there. And I did that. I was there for 17 years. So
oh, yeah. Well,
played wedding bands and played jazz gigs and taught lessons and got into trouble there too, quite a bit.
Yeah, that's part of life, you know.
Yeah, had some kids down there.
Yeah.
They're with me now in North Carolina. So
well, that's good. That's a good thing. Yeah,
yeah,
that's a really good thing. So I've seen you play country. Where did that come from?
Yeah. Well, I've always liked every style of music. That's another thing.
I can tell that. Yeah, I can.
So I like. I mean, everybody's impressed when they hear like Brent Mason or some of these like hot country picker guys. Brad Paisley's really good.
Yeah, he is.
But I guess I got into the Telecaster guitar really before I got into the country music really.
Yeah, the whole Telecaster thing. I mean, that's broad too. I mean, that's a subject in itself.
Yeah. Well, Mike Stern did a clinic when I was at AIM, the jazz guitar player Mike Stern.
Yeah, I know who he is.
Which in addition to being really what actually got me super into jazz, I forgot about that part. It also got me into the Telecaster because I started trying to copy Mike Stern a lot. And then I learned about Danny Gatton.
Yeah.
And a bunch of hot kind of country guys. And then I have always like dabbled in it here and there just because I think it's kind of neat. But then after all this time in Atlanta, I moved to, well, actually, let me say, so most of what I do, a lot of it is I wanted to make money and I had to learn material for a funk band or a country band or a pop band or whatever. So I had to be able to
make a living.
Yeah. And I wanted to do it well. And since I'm fortunate that I like those kinds of music, I was able to kind of dive into it. But really getting into country was when I moved back here. I got involved with a cat named Jonathan Robson, who goes by Pistol Hill. And I played, he was my first gig after I moved back to North Carolina. And I played with him for a few years, or at least a year. But I got really into traditional country music through playing with him. Yeah. And got really into Roy Nichols.
Yeah, Roy Nichols. Great.
And I can't believe his name's escaping me. Buck Owens and
it's
his guitar player.
Yeah, I know. Don Rich.
Don Rich. Yeah. I got real into those guys and a lot of honky tonk kind of music, and less pyrotechnics in that kind of music, but more, I don't know, a little more funky kind of thing. You know, so I got into them, and I don't know. I just like that sound. That's just another. I don't really have a specialty.
Well, okay, while we're on the subject of Telecasters, now I see that your choice of instruments is different than anyone I know around here. Elaborate on your choices of guitars that you play.
Oh, well, my Telecasters are made by a guy named Brody Cobb.
Okay, that's where I was going with that.
Yeah. They're made by a guy named Brody Cobb, and who's one of my best friends in the whole world, who lives in Georgia, in Richland, Georgia, below Columbus. And he promised me that the first one he made, he'd give it to me, you know. So, I mean, don't tell him I told you that. but I got that one from him and really loved it, you know, and played hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of gigs on it. And he recently built me another one that I've had for a couple years. And I just love it, you know, and he's an excellent guitar builder.
They sound really good. What are you running those through? What is your go-to amp?
Okay, well, I was playing.
I saw you with like a Vox AC-30.
Yeah, AC-15.
AC-15,
yeah. I'm not playing that much these days. I've had a Roland Cube 60 that I've played since, I don't know, 20 years now.
Yeah,
I've had it.
Those are fine amps too.
Yeah.
Great jazz amp too.
Yeah, it is. And that's mostly what I play now. Really the last 3 or 4 months, I've been playing through that again almost exclusively. I went through a couple years of just plugging straight into the amp and doing everything with my fingers and the knobs of the guitar, turning the amp up real loud. And that's what I do with the Roland still. Like it reacts to your playing the way a tube amp would, which is really important to me. That I don't need any pedals or anything. So you know.
Yeah, I was going. I haven't seen you with pedals, and I was just wondering. You know, I thought
I am
maybe
using
I
some
missed it.
now.
Okay.
Yeah, I have 5.
For a guitarist, 5 is
Yeah,
small.
it's very minimal,
Yeah.
and I don't care if I have them or not. I mean, I just I like a little bit. I mean, really, what I use is just to make it that much more tube amp like. Right. Really, I do use a delay pedal. I have 2 delay pedals I use. You know, for one for a real short echo that's on all the time, and then one for a long one. You know. Right. And an overdrive pedal, which I pretty much leave on all the time. Wow. And I have a fuzz pedal that I use here and there, and then I have a phaser pedal.
Oh, yeah, fuzz pedals. I'm a fuzz pedal connoisseur.
Yeah.
I'll pick them up. I just love them.
I love them. So I love that sound.
That's a good sound.
I love it so much, and I need another one. But sometimes I don't use them, and I don't have to have them. It's nice to have some different colors sometimes.
Well, tell me what you're doing now. Mm-hmm. You know, what you're playing with, who you're with now.
Well, I have my trio, the Derek McCoy trio. We play all the time, all over the place, especially in the Henderson County, Cleveland County areas. Pretty much every weekend. I also play solo guitar somewhere all the time. You know, just jazz guitar. Sort of like Joe Pass type stuff.
Yeah, that's cool.
And I'm also playing with Scott Moss and the $100 Handshakes, which is my thing I'm really into right now. He's a good songwriter, and it's lets me do my thing. You know, it's really cool. And I really enjoy. He plays guitar too, which is real fun being in a 2-guitar band. Yeah. And just getting to play rhythm guitar a lot instead of having to play 5-minute solos on every song.
Yeah.
I'm real proud of that. We just got a record that just came out everywhere yesterday on June 25th.
Yeah.
And I don't know when that'll be when this comes out.
Yeah. It'll be out already.
Yeah.
So where did you find your jazz trio people from? I mean, that's hard to find here.
Yeah. I just kind of look for the best drummer around here, and I think that's probably Nikhil Wallace.
Yeah, probably is. Yeah. He's a fine drummer.
Yeah. And he just happened to be teaching upstairs at the Shelby Music Center.
Oh, yeah, you teach too also.
Yeah. I teach every Saturday at the Shelby Music Center.
There you go.
Where I also grew up. You know, I learned how to change strings at the Shelby Music Center when I was a little kid. And I've gone there my whole entire life. And he was upstairs there, and I heard him and thought he sounded good, so we started playing together.
He's very good. Yes, he's very good.
And we both were looking for something where we could really play, you know, and take solos and do whatever we wanted. And we decided that this band, we would do whatever we felt like doing. And if we wanted to play a Johnny Cash tune or a jazz tune or a Black Sabbath, we would just do them all one next to the other if we wanted to.
And I've kind of seen them do that, and they do. Yeah.
And the bass player is Tim Winter. He lives in Saluda, North Carolina. And
he's a fine bass player.
Yeah, he is. And I got his name from another bass player I was playing with. Subbed him out, and we did a duo gig together one time, and that's it. That's history. So we've done a whole lot of gigs. We've rehearsed 3 times together in the last 2 years or a year and a half.
I think people that aren't musicians a lot of times probably think that musicians and bands practice way more than what they do.
Yeah, we don't. But our music's highly improvisational anyway. So
yes, it is.
That's something you can't really practice necessarily. So it all works out. And we're at a level where we can just kind of learn the stuff at home, and it all falls into place on the gig, you know.
That's good. I appreciate you taking the time to come to do this. I know that there's a lot of people out there who listen to you that wondered just, how did he get that good? How did that happen? And basically it comes down to a lot of hard work.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's a great guy besides being a great musician. Go out and see him anywhere you can. He is around a lot. Catch his trio, catch him with Scott Moss and $100 Handshakes. If you want him to learn to play, he'll point you in the right direction. He'll help you.
I will.
Whether you'll be able to get to where he is debatable.
For a reasonable price, too.
Yeah, oh yeah. It's not free. So, I mean, man has to make a living here. But I do appreciate you coming down. It was a long drive for you, and it's been a pleasure having you here.
Absolutely.
Thank you. A little more Derek McCoy for you.